again. So this is the third chapter. This is sampling design. But before that, we'll have a small review on developing a research plan for our research. So if we have a plan for a research, then it will help a lot in many different angles. It helps to organize ideas. So many people have their own ideas in the mind, but until unless you put it on the paper and think how the idea can be implemented or made a realistic work on it, till that time the idea is just a simple concept and you won't get anything out of it. So for that we need to have an idea and then a proper plan for execution of that idea. If we note down a proper plan, that also helps us to enrich our idea, to get the views of from the people, and to keep working on the particular topic step by step. What must be done and is first step and then the next step. So if we write down a plan, so while writing a plan we ourselves will make sure that what will be the first step for implementing the research, then what will be the next step, and so on. In the first chapter itself, we have seen the research process from step 1 to step 7. So step 1 is writing a design, writing a research problem, then literature survey, and then design, and so on. But idea is meant for, it's our own theory, it's our own concept. So according to that, we know how it can be implemented, how it can be taken out for a final result. So according to that, we'll step by step keep writing the things. So what we have to do first. So not always we have to go through that literature survey, because many of the new things which are still not known by anybody, if we are inventing that, it doesn't mean for reading the things which are already available, because nothing is available related to that topic as it is very new. So that is why, so we ourselves will be able to understand the steps for implementation of our own idea. Then step-by-step explanation of a research objective is also expected. How we are going to get the research plan is one thing. Second thing, at each step, what is the desired output? That also should be noted in stage 1, then in the stage 2, then in stage 3, then 4, and so on. As we actually when start processing, executing the plan, then we can compare what we had desired and what is actual output, and that will let us understand whether the process is going properly or not. It means the plan is properly being executed or not, that can be very easily identified. Next is, plan should contain a method to be used in solving the problem. So at every stage, step by step, when we are writing a plan, then we should explain each step in detail. What is the output of that stage, for which particular input we are going to provide it as an input. So what is the input? What is the output? What will be the internal processes? Which are the methods that we are going to use as a treatment for the input? So according to that, we will be expecting a desired output. So in this case, for every plan, we should write the detailed explanation of the stages. Then, plan must also state the details of the technique to be adopted. This plan is for ourselves. We ourselves will make sure that the plan fit to the current stages or current requirement of the project. So when we plan a particular step, and that time or before starting a execution of a project, we may be knowing that this particular method or this particular equipment is needed. So before going for actual implementation, we will make sure that particular equipment or particular method will be already made available for that situation. So this helps us for making the things available and adopting things for the execution of the project. So when we have a plan, we will make sure that the things what has been executed in stage second will be most or maximum probability is to be adopted by a stage third. The output of stage third will be generated in such a way that that will be helpful for the next stage. So this is how, if we plan properly, that definitely the result of every stage will be more suitable as per the requirement of the research. Finally is how to plot the result. As we know, we are very much sure that how we will be executing all the stages. Then we also must be aware that what will be the output of every stage and the final stage as well. So if we know what will be the outcome or what will be the expected outcome after the final stage, then we will make sure or we will define ourselves how the result should be displayed or how we are going to justify the result. This plan also can be made. So this is how we have thought about the research plan. So everybody is expected to implement or design a research plan for their own research. Further, the next topic, sampling design. So many times it has been seen that when we go for a project, then there are huge amount of data available. So such a huge amount of data cannot be directly implemented. For example, if we go for the census data for some particular thing, for understanding the mindset of the people, we want to use a census of Maharashtra state, then it's in crores. So it's highly impossible to use the complete data for our own methods. Even though if we try to use, it will take lots of time, and the results of that particular research will get delayed. So to avoid the time, cost, and the efforts, we'll try to make the data as simple as possible. Simple in the sense we will choose a similar kind of data as if it is actual data. Let's assume that we have a crores of people data available with us. Then what we do, we'll get a smaller size of a similar data. That particular data is known as the samples. Some samples we choose, we'll check, and then we use. So then this particular sampling is definitely going to help us for reducing a research time and the cost. But sampling itself is it's not an easy task. We have to think much which are the samples we are going to collect and implement or use it for our implementation, because the samples should be similar to the original data. If we are not as such, then the application of sample or the result of a sample may not be the similar as the actual data. So steps in sample design, as we have decided that not to go for a huge data, but we will work only on a sample data. Then these are the few steps we should consider. First is type of universe, large area on which work is to be done. So we ourselves should define that what will be the working area for my research, for our research. Somebody may think that to work on the census, the people of Marathwada region, somebody may have a higher implementation uh, desire, that to work on a complete Maharashtra people. Then somebody may have huge expectations to work the total population of India. Maybe somebody will have higher than that, a world population, etc., etc. So first of all, we should define our own area on which we are desired to work, on which we are supposed to work. What is the expected uh, uh, area of research? Once we define it, that will be considered our own universe. This universe is defined with some particular notation so that we can represent it as and when required in the implementation as well as when we write a report. Next is sampling unit, small parts of the selected large area. Let us assume we have defined we are supposed to use the population details of Maharashtra state. In this regard, we cannot use the huge data, or somebody may use it. I'm not going to discourage it, but to reduce the time, if we want to use a smaller set of data, then selecting the people from Mumbai itself is not sufficient. So we are supposed to select people from each and every uh, district of Maharashtra state, and not only districts but also the age-wise population of the district is also expected. Let us assume if we talk about Nanded district, then we should choose the different age group people from Nanded and from Latur, from Hingoli, from Mumbai, from Pune, from each and every district. We should choose a similar kind of people details or population details which can be grouped together, is known as a sampling unit. So every district is considered as a sampling unit, and this unit will have the population details of every age group, the genders, and etc., etc. So this is known as sampling unit. Then source list, uh, perfect elements that we are going to choose. So if we are supposed to work on only school going children's, then the source, the from where we are going to collect is the the schools from where we can get a data. So this is how we are supposed to define from for which particular region, for which particular uh, area we are going to focus on. Next is size of a sample. So we are reducing a huge data into small, but the reduction doesn't mean that we are neglecting some of the important factors. We are supposed to collect the data from every district, but we should not miss any of the important factor, important dimension, important data out of it. So for this case, so we have to think about how much size it is, how much size of a sample it is. Let us assume we have decided that 10,000 from every district is okay, but that 10,000 should include all sort of data, all kind of data, so that the sample will be satisfactory. If we feel that the sample is not satisfactory, then we can increase. But the size of a sample should include each and every or all kind of data which will be similarly mapped with the huge amount of data or the universe data. So this is what the sample design, a size of a sample design can be defined. We ourselves can define depending on the requirement of the research data. Parameters of interest. So if we are working on a literate people of a Maharashtra state, then we will not be thinking about the income of the people, because our interest is to think about their educational standard. So we can neglect some of the unwanted things like a weight of a person or salary or income of a person. It's not at all necessary. But the necessary things are the how much education he had, what is the speaking language, writing language, understanding language, and uh, in which school he has studied. So these are the sum of the important factors. So we should not miss. We should be using it. Then budgetary constraints. So it affects a lot because it depends on how much size of data is we are going to think as a sample. If we think that 10,000 is the sample size, then we'll be reaching to all those 10,000 people in every district, getting the samples from those and accounting it. So reaching to the people, so transportation, then getting a data from those people, so using papers, pen, etc, and then digitizing them, everything is having a big budget requirement. So depending on the constraint budget, we can change the size of a sample also, because it is definitely going to affect a lot. Next, sampling procedure. So it depends on what kind of data we are going to use. So sometimes some of our colleagues have collected data from the people for handwritten recognition. So for handwritten recognition, so we had reached many different people, collected a handwritten data from many people on a simple paper and pen. So this, when the people had written their own some particular text, whatever has been defined on the paper has been digitized, scanned and then digitized, and then the data collection had been done. In another method, what we had done is we went to the people with a tab and a slate so that they can write it direct digital in the digital format, and the data is collected and directly stored. So this is how the procedure differs. In the first stage, the manual procedure, non-digitized procedure has been used for collecting the samples. In the second example, complete digital approach has been used. So we have to think on what kind of procedure we are supposed to use for collecting the samples, because that definitely going to be important for implementation of the project. If we go for digital, then it will reduce time for conversion from a manual to atomized procedure, or for scanning and getting the details manually, it will reduce. But when we go for a digital, direct digital procedure, it is definitely going to increase the cost of the project. So it's our choice which one to choose and which one to go with. So we have here two sampling methods. One is non-probability sampling, second is probability sampling. In non-probability sampling, the researcher will go to each and every sample, each and every stage he is involved, and he will decide what to be done. For example, if we go for getting a thumb recognition of each and every person, a biometric recognition, or even a face recognition of each and every person, then then the researcher, the person who is actually going to work on the samples, he will go to that place, he will go to each and every person and will work manually for collecting the data. So he always involved in selecting the data. So this particular data collection, once done, then huge data samples will be available. So selecting the samples out of it is also important. So he will decide which one is important. In probabilistic sampling, once the data is collected, or we'll get the data from already available organization, then a lottery method is used, or data will be randomly selected. So this selected data is further used for processing, and the result will be generated. So we'll look at some of the sampling methods which are widely used, depending, but the selection of the sampling method depends on what is the requirement of a project. First is systematic sampling. The sampling method is a generalized method where we do not have much more uh, constraints. So we will go on selecting a particular thing on depending on the understanding of the researcher. So he will decide what to be done, which is useful, which is not. Depending on that, he will select. Then stratified sampling. So this particular sampling is done with the help of groups. First of all, when the data is made available, then different groups are generated, and these groups are having some particular characteristics. So this characteristic belong to all the group members, so that one of the group member can be used as a sample which is representing to that group. So the all group members of each group will be collected as a sample known as stratified sampling. We have cluster sampling. All those groups, or sorry, all the samples or all the data will be classified with the help of some particular characteristic or some particular dimension. So this dimension will make a particular class of items which are similar in characteristic and dimensions, so that a cluster will be formed, and this cluster is known as a group, and then the samples can be collected. Then we have area sampling. It's like a dividing in a geographical area. We'll have a different view depending on x and y locations. Longitude and latitude can also be used, but in a simple method we can have a region wise, like a district wise division of groups also, like we have just now discussed. Simple example of using a census of Maharashtra state. So as if we have defined district wise groups, so each of this group will be considered as a geographical subdivision of a Maharashtra state, and this can be used for sampling. So we will collect a sample from each of these groups and use it for further processing. Multi-stage sampling. So we will have a overlapping sampling methods also. A huge group will have subgroups, and then into that subgroups again, and this can be used for sampling methods. Again, this is as per the requirement of a project. Sampling with a probability proportional to size. So depending on how much size we have, we know that Maharashtra state has a huge uh, population, and the districts as well, but not all. All districts do not have a same population. So the districts which has a less number of population, so we can collect a less number of samples, data samples from that particular district, and the district which has a large number of population, we can collect a more number of samples from that particular district, so that to maintain a proper proportion between uh, the groups and its sizes, so that the sample will be more fruitful and more usable for further processing. Next is sequential sampling. It's a we are the or the researcher will define how he is going to select the samples one after another, or he will have his own sequence for selecting the samples. Now we understood how the sampling will work and what is the use of sampling. So you think on your own research topic and decide really you want to work on a huge data, a complete data or not. If no, then which sampling method will be fruitful for you? You decide and write down few important characteristic of the sampling method. Thank you.